Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Wellness Culture. I'm actually really excited about this interview because not only is she an amazing human being that you all will come to fall in love with, but she's also a dear friend of mine and has so much wisdom to share. And I just want to tell you a little bit about her background, and then I'll tell you who she is. But she is the founder of Elephant Buffet Coaching. I seriously love the name of that. That is so amazing. Elephant Buffet. And we're going to get into that actually during this conversation. But she's also been 7 years of law enforcement experience and growing. She has 3 years of leadership and business coaching. And she all around loves to help people realize that the elephants in their lives are smaller than they think. Victoria Lane, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I am so excited you're here. And like I was saying, I would love for our ladies who are listening right now to get a chance to know you like I
Yeah.
do. Maybe you don't go into all your story, but go into the parts of it that are relevant to what these ladies might be experiencing.
Yeah. Like you said, 7 years of law enforcement experience. And in that, I've learned a lot through experiencing other people's trauma and my own trauma as well, learning how to meet people in their darkest and heaviest moments and how to be a light in that. And then also learning how to process deeper trauma to where I'm not carrying it in my daily life, learning how to release and let go. And so through law enforcement experience, I'm also the youngest of 8 kids. And so I had to learn how to not be, how you say it. It's easy to feel like a victim or whatever as the youngest of kids. And so instead of that, I chose to beat my own drum and do my own thing and literally be my name, Victoria. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
I can't relate to being the baby of the family just because I'm the oldest. And I'm sure we know that there's a lot of research out there in terms of birth orders and those kind of things. But whether there's relevancy or not, I know that there's some thread of truth in some of it. The oldest feels like they have to take care of the whole family. And the youngest, as from the oldest point of view, we're like, oh, it's mom's favorite. But I know that there's a lot that you had to kind of walk through too, being the youngest of 8. I was the oldest of 5, so I thought 5 was a lot. 8's a little bit pushing it on the other side, but I definitely know what it's like to grow up in a big family. And one
Yeah.
of the things you said, though, prior to even talking about growing up in your family is dealing with, and I'm gonna use the word trauma, little t and big T, because I know with what you do, there can be little t traumas, the occasional traffic violation, what to some big trauma, and really experiencing that not only kind of in your body, but also victims and things like that. And I know you can't get into all the details of things like that,
Right.
but I would like you to really talk about what it looks like when trauma gets stored in our body and also what you've done personally to kind of help work through getting those traumas moving through your body. Because as a person who's on the other side of it and having to look at these cases and being a part with the
Yeah.
victims and all of it, not necessarily that you were by far not the perpetrator of these crimes, but that can take a toll on you as well. So being
Mhm.
able to kind of separate work from personal and all that trauma stuff. So I know that's a weighted question, but you
It's a
want to
really good
unpack that a
question.
little bit?
I could go a million different directions with this question. I would say big T, little t. I think little t tends to stack. It has a compound effect on our life because we don't realize it's there. I would say that being the youngest and in a large family is probably where I learned most of my little t moments. But as an adult as well, like you said, the traffic stop or the encounter or the going to a guy with a weapon, right? All those things inadvertently actually come from adrenaline dumps, right? An adrenaline dump, it marks something in my amygdala. And then now my body's got to process all that out. My cortisol is super shot up and high. All of it on the chemical side of what my body is doing is marking something in my brain, which says, oh, this is a trauma. And which all of that big T, little t moments, they tend to either shut your nervous system down or that wakes your nervous system up. And so through micro traumas, when you don't realize how they've grown, all of a sudden your sleep is trash, you're lazy, your fatigue sets in. Well, you're not actually lazy, but your body feels lazy. There's brain fog. You can't keep yourself from eating something that you know you shouldn't, but you want. That self control kind of goes out the window. You stop being resilient. Your grit goes away a little bit. And it starts as a very slow fade into something that compounds into something much bigger, which is still just a bunch of little t's, but it's compounded off of what your brain has interpreted as danger, versus your big T's, your massive T's, that result usually. And I find that for myself, I'd process big trauma better than little trauma because I can identify it faster. And people tend to say, oh, yeah, that's the triggering event for this thing. And so night sweats, bad dreams, waking up, unable to sleep, not able to eat, or overeating, just depending on how your stress response works or what it was that you experienced in that stress response. But your big trauma is much easier to identify because it's a bigger triggering event versus your smaller T's. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Wow, there's so much I want to say to this. Okay, I'm going to jump off of what you just said, and then I'm
Right.
actually kind of want to go back to something you've said previously as well. So,
Sure.
talking about the big T's, and like you said, they're a lot easier. And as you were speaking and saying that, I'm like, that totally makes sense. And I know that the listeners are probably listening to this: a death in the family, a divorce, a health illness, or some
Yeah.
sort of big trauma, right? We can identify, I'm losing my hair, I'm not sleeping, things are
Yeah.
happening in my body because
Mhm.
this happened, right? Where the micro T's, these baby T's that are happening to us, that are, you're talking about compounding, and all I'm picturing in my mind is this big snowball. So it's
Mhm.
not necessarily what we're talking about in terms of the major traumas, in that it's these small little, what, however you say that, kink to the armor, I kind of say
Yeah.
a lot. We just took a little cut, a tiny little paper cut over
Right.
and over and over again damages the tissue. And so you
Right.
don't necessarily identify it going, oh, okay, well, that was a minor T.
Death by a
In
thousand
that,
cuts.
yes, death by a thousand cuts. I love that.
Yeah.
So with those, can you speak into, and I have a few examples as well for minor T's that people can actually go, oh, that happened to me.
Mhm.
Okay, that happened to me. And obviously, we all live different stories and we have different journeys and different things have happened. So a minor
Right.
T to somebody else is maybe not going to be a trauma to you, but
Mhm.
we have to understand how these things can impact our nervous system. And you so
Yeah.
eloquently spoke about that amygdala firing up, and then how the body keeps memory of that. And so the
Mhm.
nervous system is on heightened alert for the next thing to happen. So you can't realize, why am I reacting the way that I am?
Mhm.
Because there's all these minor traumas in the
Right.
system that haven't been dealt with.
Yeah.
So, can you speak into what a minor trauma could be for some people?
Yeah, I have to really think on that because obviously for me, a minor trauma is a little bit different than the average
Yes.
bear. I think minor traumas for a lot of people are conflict in
Mhm.
the workplace. Someone says something that's jarring. I think that can be a minor trauma. Holding on to bitterness or unforgiveness, those
Yep.
moments that triggered the bitterness or triggered the
Mhm.
unforgiveness, jealousy, greed. I think all of those things can attribute to micro traumas and or are festered because of micro traumas. And
Mhm.
it could be your sister stole your clothes when you were 12 years old and now you've that's a minor T to you and now you have some sort of attachment problem to that. Or a minor trauma could also be falling off your bike at age 14 in front of your friends and it's a deep embarrassment. It doesn't always have to be a physical thing, it doesn't always have to be a direct moment, but it's the things that are occurring where all of a sudden your body realizes, ooh, I'm slightly unsafe here and I don't know how to feel about that. And you don't know how to process it or make sense of it.
That is so good. And yeah, those are the kind of examples that I had in my head too. In childhood, your dog passing away could be a minor trauma, or when you're young, it feels like a major trauma, and you're young and you don't know how to process big feelings. And sometimes we have adults that are raising us as kids who are still processing and dealing with their own traumas. So maybe they
Right.
don't respond to our little kid trauma in the best kind of way. And so it kind of perpetuates these bigger things into adulthood, and then we realize, and you said this earlier, that we're not as resilient as we used to be, that we're
Right.
just getting just these knocks, hits,
Yeah.
and then we're just like, why, I used to be able to do this and this, and now I can no longer do that. And so that's a total sign of nervous system dysregulation and make the body not being
Yeah.
where it wants to be.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, can
girl.
I go back to grief really fast? So another little piece about me is my mom actually passed 13 years ago, 13 and a half years ago. And grief is the one trauma I think no one can really put in a little T or a big T box. I just want to affirm people who are listening that it is a major trauma up front. but it's also minor traumas along the way for the things that you'd hoped for with your parents or whoever it was. Because we have vision and we have hope for moments with people, and you don't realize that you've held on to that or that you created
Mhm.
that until you're in a moment. And so I just wanted to kind of touch there. It feels like a big grief, but it's also, you have to process grief like you would minor traumas. Just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify that because it's just so much bigger. There's a lot more depth to grief than there is other
Love to
traumas.
grieve.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know you're a believer, Christian
Yeah.
like myself. How would you say the Holy Spirit has helped in the process of just really working through, and you just talked about the grief aspect with your mom and those kind of things. Not to say that grief is just flash and it's gone, right? It comes things come in waves, but how do you feel like it's helped you in processing and working through all this?
Well, and it's a twofold kind of response to that because we're talking about how the body and God created our body and
Mhm.
everything in it. And so the nervous system, I think people don't really pay a whole lot of attention to, nor are they aware enough to realize what's happening. And
Mhm.
so with grief or any trauma, really, micro or major, like we talked about earlier, your brain makes a decision and now your body responds to that. And that response system is the nervous system. And so for me, the Holy Spirit operates in my nervous system. The way that I know to listen and discern is because I can tell where the Holy Spirit has been speaking to me and where he's guiding me. And you can separate that from emotion because emotion is just chemicals in your body. It's not actually something that, I think, what do they last 20, 30 seconds? And then our mind actually creates something bigger with them. But really, it's just processing that out of the nervous system because it's storing into your chest or your hips or your shoulders and your back. And you have to force that energy out of your body using the nervous system. And the Holy Spirit's really guiding you in that. Like, hey, if you're feeling it here, you probably need to go do X, Y, and Z. That's how I tend to process things, big or small, as I sense where the Holy Spirit's really speaking in my body and move through it.
I love that. And that's a great way of putting it in terms of the different areas, right? Yes, we don't look at the nervous system. Now, the nervous system is getting a little bit more shine time. It's not so much in the shadows, it's kind of getting out into the forefront. The
Yeah.
more that people are learning aspects about, yes, you can have the perfect diet, you can do the perfect workout, you can live your life as best as possible, trying to get all these things in a line, all the
Mm.
ducks in a row. But if your nervous system is still tied up, tangled, interference, all kinds of things holding you back, you're
Yeah.
not going to experience results from any of these things you're doing. And I hate to give that truth so blunt or harshly, but we really do have to look at the holistic piece of everything. And like you said,
Yeah.
God created the body so beautifully. And so allowing the Holy Spirit to really guide and direct on how to best support. Sometimes it's really honestly as simple as taking a breath, right? Because so many of us are in trauma or in experiences that we're going through in life, shallow breathing,
Yeah.
tightening up their shoulders, clenching
Mm.
those jaws. What's wrong? We can't
Yeah.
figure out what's happening. It's like, well, I ate avocado today and I should be feeling okay. That avocado is beautiful and it's helpful, but all these other pieces.
Yeah. I'm really happy that you're taking care of your stomach, but your stomach's not going to get the message to your brain at all if your nervous system's shut down, right? If the messenger's not showing up for work, the mail's not going to be delivered. You know what I mean? You got to fix the system, fix the messenger system, and then everything else will flow.
Great analogy. I love that. I love that. I know we've been talking about this, but the disconnection from our body, like
Yeah.
what you were saying, I can't say it as best as you just did.
Oh, it's a messenger, right? And
Yes.
if the messenger system is broken, if the means of delivery is broken, then it doesn't matter how you feed your stomach. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how you feed your lungs. If you're not helping your nervous system, your messenger system operate,
Yeah.
it's going to shut down. It's going to get overloaded.
There it is. The mailman's not gonna
Yeah.
be able to deliver a
Yeah.
message that he doesn't receive in his hand
Yeah.
to hand over to you.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, and this sounds so wild to say, but we're living so disconnected from our bodies in an era where there's so much information about our body, so much information about health, which is ironic really to think about. Wow,
Yeah.
we're so disconnected even in this world of so much information.
Yeah.
Why do you think that body awareness, having that awareness is important from the aspect of being able to heal, being able to grow, and really dealing with these elephants? And I want to kind of go into the elephants after this, but I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
first that part.
Yeah, I think people live disconnected, myself included. I go through seasons where this happens to me, where I am overloaded by dopamine. I can
Mm,
scroll, 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 and that's creating disconnection because you're numbing out. We're numbing out with TV, we're numbing out with food, we're numbing out with being too social. We're not taking a minute to pause and really process and honor our bodies. And that's through giving it time and space and movement. And you can move, but if you don't give yourself the time and the space, there's no awareness, right? Some people, they'll move and they'll feel pain constantly, but they disregard the pain because they're like, pain is for babies. I don't feel that. And in reality, they're just living disconnected from their body.
mm,
And when we really take a minute to feel, for me, I feel in my chest a lot and
mhm,
I feel in my neck a lot. And so when I am starting to feel a tightness here, or if I'm starting to feel a tightness in my neck, I know, oh, I need to tune into what's happening because something's trying to overload my system and I need to bring it back down. I need to not be in
mm.
this survival threat mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful. I do talk about that too. Finding, like in your case, your body's antenna. I don't
Mhm.
ever pronounce that word correctly. People make fun of me. Antenna is what I say, but
That's
I
what you
just said
normally say?
antenna. Antenna. Side note, I blame it on my grandma in the most loving way. She was
Yeah.
from Norway. English was her second language. So grew up with her, probably how she said it. But anyway, so I love how you said your antenna is kind of in your chest and in the back of your neck. You feel these things and you know to take that moment to connect with yourself.
Mhm.
To go, okay, what are you trying to say? What's happening here? And it's so simple but so profound in the changes that can be made in just taking that moment to just pause, like you said, outside of all of the crazy chaos. And with that, I want to talk about what you're doing with Elephant Buffet coaching and how you're helping
Yeah.
people really learn to take these moments to connect with themselves and work through what seems so big, so overwhelming, but
Mhm.
really working through it one bite at a time.
Yeah. Well, elephant buffet, it came to, well, I like elephants to start.
I
They're
love
just a
it.
fun, they're a fun animal. And people talk about the elephant in the room. It's something you feel, it's attention and a big thing, small thing, a good thing, a bad thing, no matter what it is, right? But people generally refer to the elephant in the room as something negative. And what I've seen for myself and what I've seen for other people is that we get analysis paralysis and we get shut down by what our elephant is in our life, whether that be a trauma holding you back, whether that be a big giant hairy goal that you're like, I don't know, I'm ever going to get to this, or it's living stuck and you're like, I just don't know how to get unstuck. And so with Elephant Buffet, it helps to have someone in your life coach you who can help provide a lens to see life through that's a little different. And I do it through Holy Spirit discernment with spirit led frameworks and helping people just to see, hey, this elephant is actually the size of a peanut. And so my elephant's name is Peanut, by the way. The
I love
elephant
him.
Peanut. Because our problems, our goals, our dreams, everything that we wanna do, you can break everything down into bite-sized pieces. And it's a buffet because it doesn't have to be the same order for every single person. It's however it's presented to you in that moment. Like you go to a Chinese buffet and the end of a Kung Pao chicken freaking platter's gone, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna wait for them to bring something fresh. And all of a sudden, the fresh thing they come out with is actually coconut shrimp. Wait, I want a Kung Pao chicken. Problems present themselves differently and perspectives present themselves differently. And it just kind of depends on where the Lord is guiding you and taking you in that journey as well. So with Elephant Buffet, my goal is to really help people, help them get unlocked so that they can really live their life on purpose for what the Lord's created them to, helping them to
Mm.
call out their potential and to realize that that big thing's actually this big. It's so small.
Oh
So yeah.
my god. I I'm smiling so big. I mean, you two people can be seeing that, but those of you listening, it's just so in alignment with what I talk about too in terms of helping the body. And
Mhm.
what you're doing is helping people holistically with the Holy Spirit, with the Lord, and breaking down all of these things. Cause you're absolutely right. I feel like you're speaking to me when you're talking about it feels so big. It feels so daunting. It feels so overwhelming. But when we really get to the core of what is there, that little peanut could just be some little fears that we have to overcome, or some stepping out in faith, or
Yeah.
eating Kung Pao chicken when you wanted coconut shrimp curry, or whatever, right? And it doesn't have to be done in the exact step one, step two, step
Right.
3, step 4. What happens, and I know a lot of you listeners are disciplined women just like Victoria and myself. We can be very disciplined with certain things, but if we don't watch ourselves, what ends up happening is that discipline turns into rigidity, turns into being obsessive, and it's not honoring or stewarding. And so no longer are we listening to that voice that's inside of us. We are now listening to the voices outside of us and pushing ourselves beyond boundaries that we can even handle. So when you talk about that, Peanut, when you talk about doing it in so many different unique ways with each person, it's just so refreshing to hear just because that's exactly what I talk about is you can't do it one single way every single time. It's not a cookie
Yep.
cutter. It's dynamic. It's not
Yep.
static. It's dynamic. Everything's moving and shifting. And I just love that. So
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, girl. Well, as we start to land this plane, I would love for you, if anyone feels overwhelming listening to this episode, or they're just feeling daunted by all the wellness advice or just not knowing what step to take, what would you want them to come back to, or what would you want them to focus on first? What would be the first thing?
I'd say really sit, journal, and breathe. I would create space. The first thing that I would do
Mm.
and ask the Holy Spirit, invite God in every decision, first of all, because he should be your CEO. But invite the Holy Spirit into a moment of space and ask him, where am I not honoring my body? Where am I not honoring my time for? And how have you built me for purpose? And in that, a lot of times the big things will start to unfold.
Mm.
You'll start to see, okay. And if you can't even get to those questions, I would say just journal unconscious thought. Just go for 5 or 10 minutes, and that will reveal what's holding you back.
Yeah. I would like to add on to that because I've had people go, "Well, I don't have time to journal." And I always chuckle and I said, "Yeah, but you have time. You can pick up your phone, you can go into your notes section and you can hit voice and you can literally vomit, word vomit with your own voice into your phone and get the transcript all right there." So you do have time to
Mhm.
journal if you choose to do it that
Yeah.
way, but it is important to create space and make space for that kind of stuff because if you don't make space, there's never going to be a time, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and if
yeah.
someone is coming at you with the, I don't have time, I would ask them, oh, cool. What does your screen time look like last week? You know what I mean? Let's be
Yeah.
real. Let's be
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put it around. I was in that boat for years with working out. I was like, oh, there's just not enough time. Oh, I don't have time. But the
Mhm.
reality is I wasn't prioritizing it. When
Right.
I'm not journaling, I'm like, oh, I don't have time. Anytime I say that, it's just an excuse and I'm not taking ownership over my own life and my own time.
It's
And I'm not
true.
prioritizing the things that make, yeah.
Yeah. We're not stewarding well. And you mentioned that earlier in the episode about getting caught up in the scroll and looking for the dopamine hits and
Yeah.
all of the things. And what's interesting about that too is you can scroll by a post of somebody at a wedding, a baby shower, you're going through all this stuff, and then all of a sudden tragedy hits, right? Then you're seeing a friend of yours who lost a child. That just happened recently in my life with a friend of mine. And it's just how much scrolling can desensitize us because we're moving from emotion to emotion in milliseconds of speed as we're doing this, right?
Yeah.
Happy wedding, babies, boom, death. Okay, keep going. Sorry for your loss. Boom, boom, boom. And our brains become so numb and our nervous system
Yeah.
becomes so numb. And so this is why we have people like Victoria who can do these kind of coaching sessions with you to help really get to the bottom underlying layers of all the things that are going on to help you discover what your little peanut is so that you can flourish and grow into the person, into the woman that God has called you to be. Because I know
Yeah.
we all feel like we've got these great callings on our lives, or maybe we're struggling to find those great callings. It's not a lot of work or effort to get to the bottom of that, but
Right.
sometimes you do need other eyeballs looking in to be able to call out what is there and
Yeah.
to get you to higher ground.
Yep.
So, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Victoria. I love this conversation. I had so much fun with it. I would love for you to let everyone know where they can connect with you and how they can stay in touch.
Yeah, for my coaching, I'm on Instagram only right now, and so you can contact me at Elephant Buffet Coaching,
Love it.
and then there's a link in my bio for a consult call if they'd like to do a consult for free.
Cool. I will
Yeah.
also put that in the show notes. So if any of you are driving, pushing the stroller, going out for a run, have the kiddos with you, might not be able to write that down. the snow, it will be linked down below for easy access. So thank you so much, Victoria. I appreciate
Yeah.
your time and you spending with us. So until next week, we will see you later. Have a great one. Bye.
Bye.